super excited about this project. So we're here today for the Evolve Voices, and we are basically starting this project, part of the Evolve Commerce Club. Voice, we believe, is more than just a podcast. It's our way of showcasing diverse perspectives in commerce. Go through each of you that I'm here, that we have here, or our ambassadors, who bring something powerful and unique from your region. So our goal is simple yet ambitious: to share stories, challenges, and new ideas from local markets around the world, creating a true exchange of insights that doesn't just inform, but connects people on a personal level. Through each episode, we are inviting listeners to see the world of commerce through your eyes, or our ambassadors, or through their eyes, with the hope that they walk away inspired, challenged, and with a broader understanding of what commerce looks like from different parts of the globe. Today, we're here to kick things off by getting to know each one of our ambassadors, or each one of you, hearing what you hope voices will bring to the table, and learning more about the kinds of stories and guests you're excited to share with the community and beyond. So I encourage everyone to jump in, ask each other questions, and let this be the first of many conversations that shape voices. So ladies, welcome. And I'll start with perhaps some quick intros. We've all recorded, Jade, except from you, but we will record an expert session. Let's start with a quick round of intros. I can see Edilsa. You're the first one that I can see here. So Edilsa, welcome. Let's start with you, and just a quick intro. Then we go to Jade and Maisa.
Hi, Edilsa. We have any Spanish speakers listening over the time. I speak Spanish, and that's my first language, first generation immigrant from the Dominican Republic. I have a brother whose handicap has been shaped my experience a lot, along with New York. It's the city I grew up in, and those things taught me something bigger is out there for me, and really challenged me to think through resilience, agility, and curiosity. And that's what I am doing today, as connecting directly with the actual brands as a consultant, former Amazon, former investment banker. So do see myself as a multi-hyphenate in so many ways.
Amazing. Thank you, Edilsa. Let's go to Jade. Jade, where are you speaking from? And a bit about yourself.
I'm sitting in my husband's study in London. And sorry, I didn't know this was going to be recorded, or else I would have moved boxes away, but this is real life. So yes, we just moved into a new house temporarily while we're renovating our house. I've basically been in London since 2015. Prior to that, I was in Singapore for about 8 years. And before that, I was in Toronto, but originally from Manila. So I grew up in the Philippines. I am Filipino at heart, but also a citizen of the world. And I travel the world mostly through food and cooking. So passionate about food. I am obsessed with food. So there's something to know about me. I'm always thinking about what I'm going to be cooking or eating next, while I'm actually already cooking and eating what I'm having that same time. I'm married with one kid. Come from a very close-knit family. They're all in Toronto, which is, I guess, the place that I call home now, as well as London. And I've been fortunate enough to have lived and worked in a lot of places, and I've worked in every continent except Africa and Antarctica. So I haven't worked with penguins yet, but maybe Evolve is going to be expanding into that region of the world. And we'll be meeting more penguins from Antarctica. So kidding aside, I have worked for over a couple of decades, and I've seen a lot of different changes in my career. Mostly have gone through sales and marketing roles, but with a big focus on go-to-market. So I would say that's probably what my focus is on now, with my experience in business development, partnerships, enablement, marketing as a marketing leader, but also as an individual contributor, mostly in the commercial side of things. Being able to see that from a holistic point of view, from a macro level point of view, and also knowing how to execute in different markets is what I specialize in. So happy to especially be part of a global community like Evolve, to be able to not only impart some of my knowledge, but also definitely learn from the other people who are scattered all over the world. I think.
Thank you, Jade. Maisa,
Yes.
you.
So, hi, Maisa. I'm here in Lisbon. I moved to Lisbon from Beirut. So I'm Lebanese. I come from Lebanon. I was born and raised there. I've lived in Paris. I've lived in Singapore. And now that's my second year here in Lisbon. I'm a marketeer. I've worked at L'Oréal, I've worked at Mars, I've worked at big event company, tech, startup, e-commerce, you name it. And since last year, I'm on my own freelancing as a marketing and growth consultant. So I help small startups or, established companies, to evaluate their product, go-to-market strategy. If what they are doing in terms of marketing, in terms of go-to-market is good, bad, how, we can reevaluate everything. And the fact that also I have a life coach certificate, it helps me also, this is a second hat that I have. So, but this also helps me, in helping, CEOs of companies to reorganize their marketing team, right? And, to have the HR, see what's good and bad, what's the areas of development, how we can help in a more human way. Today, all teams and particularly the marketing team, to evolve in a better way. And I'm very excited about Evolve Voices. So my contribution will be mainly for the Middle East, since, I come from this area of the world and I've worked a lot, with companies in this, geographical area. So yeah, and I'm also, most importantly, a mom of two. And, parenting is also, a big chunk of my life.
Amazing. Thank you. I'll just quickly introduce myself for the listeners. I'm Carlos, Brazilian, based in Denmark for 11 years. And I like to say I'm also a citizen of the world of sorts. I ended up in Denmark because I was married with a Danish woman. At some point in my life, I was working for the Danish government in Brazil. And there, I learned a bunch about the role of governments, the role of the role that governments they have in connecting, specifically small or smaller and medium businesses. But it's interesting that when I arrived in Denmark, I had no network. I didn't know anybody. So I started creating content, and I realized that, well, it wasn't because I worked for the government that when I moved to a new country, I would have it easy. It was really, really hard. And I started a blog called denmarkbrazil.com that time, which taught me a lot about content. And content teaches you a lot about the human nature and relationships, right? So I was interviewing many of my friends back in Brazil with the idea of strengthening my brand as a person. So eventually I could get a job. I never got a job. That's how I started a company. So I started a consulting business initially to help Danish brands to with market entry, with business development in Brazil. Things evolved, and then it became a global play. And then I started working with commerce vendors. And the long story short is I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about cultures. I'm passionate about connecting people. And I think when we connect people, great things happen. So Evolve started as a project where, from that experience, I was quite successful interviewing people, in different markets. That's what I've done all of my life. I would go to a market, interview people, and that would make it so easy for me to insert my clients into a context that I thought maybe I can help other founders to do the same as I'm doing, because if I have to travel all the time, that's not scalable. Mm-hmm. So I started Evolve in 2020 until 2023. But the idea of the club was always at the back of my mind. And in 2024, I had the courage really to start this, because I was afraid of starting something where I wasn't certain where this was going, right? I just knew I had a network, a really nice network, but I was uncertain about, the direction that the project was going to take. But eventually I said, okay, I'll start it. I had several conversations with my wife. She's been so supportive and amazing. So I said, okay, let's start the club. And the goal is to connect people. And so I think the vision, it's so clear now, and the vision is so big, but we have to take small steps. I think that's it. So, but the vision is to create an infrastructure and to connect people across the globe. As I said, I'm gonna repeat myself. I believe that we are here for something bigger. We are not just here to live our lives and die. That's my belief. So we're here to connect, and we are here to learn from one another. And I believe in this global tribe that we have. Like, I think we can learn so much from each other. And I just happen to work in the world of commerce. It could be cement, it could be any other industry. It's commerce, and commerce is just the excuse we use to connect all of the global and incredible people that we have in our community. So the Go with Voices, it's a project that I'm really, really excited about. Is to actually elevate people, so it's not just me or Gustavo, but people who are part of this project and who've been supporting us from the get-go. Maisa, Jade, more recently, Edilsa, who's been there. All of you very international. I think what connects us here, Edilsa has an international background, Jade is an international, Maisa living abroad. So we are all very international. And when you look at Evolve, that's a very strong, let's say, common thread, right? So we are all very international, and that's intentional, right? That's intentional. I think that's we are here like to get people to understand like that the world is bigger. It's not just that small bubble generating leads. I think that sucks. That world of generating leads. I like the conversations, I like the relationships, and eventually things will happen as well in terms of business. So that's my belief. And the project here is to elevate you ladies and help and have you interviewing your network and bringing this perspectives that I believe you can bring from your regions back to our community. So with that said, the first question I have, and we'll start with the expectations. So if you can just share maybe in a minute or two, what are the expectations? What are you hoping to get out of Voices, and what excites you the most about being part of this project? Let's start with Edilsa, please.
I feel like the first thing that stood out to me was when you introduced the concept of with Gustavo of the point of the podcast is how global trends have become. Everything sounds the same. Everyone's talking about AI. Everyone's talking about personalization. And to have an opportunity to actually bring a unique take from our lens of Jade being on the ground in London, Maisa in Lisbon, me out here in the US, and see what is going on here that's unique that you guys should know about. And so there's so much about the US, and that I feel like is not talked about globally, the direct to consumer culture. I think there's no country where these small brands that are ran on its own without like large retailers are just operating independently. Wellness as a lifestyle, malls in the US, and just be able to talk about those individual things and how they could maybe be surfaced in globally and transformed and adapted to where you are. And so to finally be to the business of learning, I just feel like I hear the same thing, and to finally go back to that, I think is really refreshing. The other point that I'm super excited about is elevating smaller brands. I think we're always talking about Walmarts, the Amazons of the world, but who are those small mom and pop businesses that, again, we could learn from, and that larger businesses, different verticals, can be learning from and be inspired. And I think to be on that hunt for those who have unique takes, I think it's going to be really, really exciting in this. And then the third thing is I pride myself on my resilience, and I hope to bring that through in the podcast. And that's part of my voice, and hope that I can bring it out of listeners that are going out there. Is just, where have you met challenges head on? How have you dealt with pivot points? And also help us learn how we can make the right choices as we're transforming brands, people, and experiences. So I think those are the three things. I'm super excited. Thank you so much, Carlos, for inviting me. And I'm also super excited in the company that I'm keeping in this. I'm excited to learn from all of you ladies and Dominic about all these things.
Awesome. Thank you. Jade.
I think I would echo what Edilsa just said. For me, what got me really excited and jumped at the plans to do this was to widen my network. As I mentioned earlier, I do have quite a vast and diverse network, but it can only get bigger and better, right? Actually, just meeting the both of you now, I've known Carlos for a few months, but meeting the both of you now, I'm very impressed with your background, but also your eloquence. But just getting to meet more people within the Evolve community, but also reaching out to other people within the wider global commerce network, and also learning exactly what you said, Adilsa, about all the trends that are shaping each region that are being either dominant in one place, but are also being echoed in others. At this point in time, there's such a homogeneous nature, I would say, to commerce and global commerce in general, that you tend to forget that, there are local nuances as well, right? So I think for me, what is going to be exciting about this project is being able to marry those two. So highlighting what's happening globally. These are, trends. You mentioned AI, you have things like using generative AI for chatbots. I think sustainability in commerce is also a huge topic. Being able to use things like blockchain technology, for instance, to be able to understand, how you're going to make supply chain smarter. You have seamless payment integrations, that sort of thing. There's a lot of really cool technology that's being used in all over, like lots of different parts of the world. I think social commerce, for instance, and live shopping has been around in places like China, and then South America, but it's now really like the TikTok shop going full steam. It's going everywhere, right? So being able to see where things are burgeoning and spreading, but also having a lens of where these local nuances, or how these local nuances are shaping not just the way that people are selling to other people, but also how consumers are dictating how they want to buy as well. So for me, that's what's really exciting. And yeah, I would say just having a chance to have a platform as well. So thank you, Carlos, for the invite.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Jade. And Maisa, your expectations. And
So yes, so I'm not going to repeat what the lady said. So yes, it's a networking space first and a learning tool second. This is for sure. And plus, what I just want to add is that it's also for everyone to see the people, the faces behind the brands, behind the products, behind, this sales, this technology, everything. So I think it's important also, for everyone to see and, to get to know these people, because I think it's important too. It lets you get, a different feel about the brand or the product or the service, So this, I think, is also very important. And this is where I think it's very important for us to choose which person or who are the people we're going to interview, right? And also, actually, for me, the fact that I'm going to talk with people from the Middle East, be it in Dubai, in KSA, in Jordan, in Qatar, in Lebanon, it's a different culture from the rest of the world, right? So for people also to understand how they actually do things in this part of the world, it's also very important. And lastly, like Jade said, so thank you, Carlos, for this opportunity. I've always wanted to have a podcast, to be honest with you. So now the fact that you're just presenting this opportunity for me is just amazing. So thank you for this.
No, of course. That's a good segue for my next question, which is what kind of impact would you like this show that we're going to have and host here, that you would think it would be a good impact on the listeners, right? Because from our perspective, we're learning, we're going to be learning, and we can be ahead of the curve. But in terms of like a broader perspective, what is it that you would be hoping, Jade, since you're here, and then I don't have to change cameras. Then the next one and the next one.
I am hoping that the people that we speak to, I would say personally, people that I want to talk to, I'd love to have a mix of very diverse opinions and backgrounds. So whilst it's really great to interview senior people who've been in the market for decades and are in their C-suites sitting nicely in, their big castles. It's also I'm also thinking of reaching out to people who are really like either starting their careers or rolling up their sleeves and actually doing the work, because it's a very, very different perspective and opinion, and also ideas coming from those two different types or multiple types of people. So for me, that's what I'm anticipating. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Maisa, what are you hoping?
Yeah, so the fact that, the impact should be actually, it's not attracting more listeners. It's about, the feeling and the emotions that you will leave our listeners with, right? It's similar as marketing, right? When you want to market anything, you need to put emotions into it, right? So, every podcast that we should have, so which emotion are we leaving our listeners with, right? And I think that we should try and leave them with faith for the future, right? This is number one. We should try and leave them with the future can be, even brighter than now, some positive, sides, some, you can roll your sleeves and do it. You have opportunities in the market. Yes, it's challenging, but you can do, a lot of stuff. So it's about the feeling and the emotion that you will leave our listeners with. And I think we should try and, have this positive emotion at the end of every podcast.
Brilliant. Idilsa.
I think you talking about the broader perspective, and I think one is I would really love for any viewers, listeners, people who are interviewing ourselves here to take a step back and reconnect with your why. What truly drives you? Why are you doing what you're doing here? And embracing that curiosity, seeking out those new perspectives. And that's going to come through conversations, us learning from each other, exploring new areas of interest, but hopefully leaving us with an opportunity to reignite passions, provide clarity in times of uncertainty as we're living today. But I just think that opportunity, like, so much of like why I've loved a lot of the podcasts I've heard on Evolve is you can clearly see that people are aligned with their why, and so having people understand not only the strategies to get there, but the mindset it takes to persist and adapt to stay that alignment is going to be fun, and hopefully will come through.
I also want to echo, I think that's exactly right, but also origin stories. I think
Yes, 100%.
when I listen to podcasts that I really like, I like hearing about, okay, let's talk about your expertise, but I want to hear about your, like, where you're from, what made you who you are. So I think that's going to be a big focus as well.
Amazing. I love that as well. I think that's so important, because then you build like a personal connection. It's not that just that corporate stuff that I don't like, to be honest. All right. So we are on 35 minutes, and I would like to ask you a final question here, which is maybe to finish with a personal note. If you could summarize your vision for Voices in just a few words, maybe a sentence, maybe a one-liner or whatever.
Putting us on the spot here.
Yeah.
It's always harder when you have to think of like one word or sentence, right?
It could be a sentence. Just I don't know if that makes it any easier, but
I would say Voices is a conversation.
All right. Cool. The conversation.
An ongoing conversation.
Yeah, and also, bringing people closer together and closer to understanding, the commerce, place as a whole.
The conversation, bringing people together to understand commerce.
I like what you also said about like knowing the people behind earlier. Maybe elevating the unseen. It's just that goes to Jade's backstory too. Is what are the unseen drivers? How and really elevating that, I think, will be so powerful to help us stand out and be different. And truly stand out as voices.
Nice, brilliant. All right, ladies, I love this. It's so nice to see you all. I'm super excited about this project that we're gonna, you're gonna be leading. I'm just going to be there cheering and rooting for you. Super nice. Thank you all for this. We'll get started, right? And I don't know how to wrap this up, but I think that's it. We'll start Voices real soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Thank you.